Hello and welcome to Footballistan. We are going to be having another discussion on the ongoing SAFF Championship in India. We're going to be discussing two teams here today that have not had remotely the best of starts. They're rather coming to the conclusion of the SAFF Championship campaign with confirmations that they're obviously not going to be going through the semi-finals now. And with me here to discuss the fates of both Pakistan and Nepal, who both are just going to be playing for pride when they face off in their last Group B game, is Sudesh, who is a journalist from Nepal. He extensively writes, also writes for Euro News, amongst other things, and has a very interesting insight into Nepali football. Thank you, Sudesh, for joining us. And Ali Ahsan, chief editor of footballpakistan.com, he's been a regular on the podcast as we continue discussion of the Pakistan national team in the SAF Championship and beyond. I'm just going to start with you, Ali. I think, Nepal's campaign has been half decent. Pakistan, after India and now after Kuwait, really all over the place. I mean, the last game it's been broadcast in Pakistan. Everybody has their own, 2 cents on the matter, but with the quality that Pakistan has at its disposal, and nobody's really doubted that at any point, we should be doing a lot better. To be honest, nobody expected a result, but the way that we have just, fallen down against Kuwait, where do we go from here?
Thank you, Shahrukh, once again for having me on your podcast. It was very painful watching Pakistan play against Kuwait. It was disappointing how Pakistan played against India because we made a lot of unforced errors in which we could have and should have done a lot better. But against Kuwait, they were just so quick to punishing our mistakes from the get-go because you could see that this is a team who know their football. They like to play fast. They like to play with a certain confidence about them. And the quality that they have is always going to be tough to beat for any team in South Asia. Um, I mean, I was hoping that if we can at least avoid conceding in the first 10, 15 minutes, that'll be good. But surprise, surprise, we ended up conceding in the first 9 minutes again. It was, I mean, if you look at closely at the set piece, Kuwait played a short corner. I mean, they were all constantly peppering the goal. They were asking questions of our defense, which we didn't really have an answer to. Credit to, I guess the defending lines and of course Yusuf, but for trying to keep things tidy because you could see because there was literally no crowd in the stadium. So the mics are picking up Yusuf but constantly shouting at his defense and his midfield to push up, maintain shape, maintain shape, maintain shape, to the extent that you could hear that wow, I guess he's the only person in the entire stadium who has a voice. But you know that the danger was coming in. So Kuwait's first goal was basically from a set piece. They played a short corner. Instead of taking a short corner and just pumping the ball into the box, they passed it on the side. They passed it near the box. They put it back, and then they switched back to the wing. And I guess a lot of players could have closed down. The cross just went past one like a nice arc from the right side. It went past one, two, three, four defenders at the Pakistan back four. I think Ali Niazi, who was playing as our makeshift right wing back, he's good going forward, but defensively there were some questions he probably doesn't have an answer to. He got wrong-footed. The Kuwait player took a touch and just rifled the ball in, 1-0. And if, we did try to create something, but we did try to take advantage of, set pieces, of corner kicks of our own. The second goal was just, which Kuwait scored, I think, literally after like 6, 7 minutes, 10 minutes after the first goal, was just that, we had a corner. It was a good opportunity to at least test the Kuwaiti goalkeeper, make him force a save or try to hit the shot on target if possible, if ask questions of them too. The corner gets kind of sort of clears and it goes straight into the feet of Shaikh Dost. I think he waited a bit too long compared to what he should have done. He could have taken a shot. He could have chipped the ball back in the box at the far post. He could have even passed it to Harun Hamid just behind the player trying to make a run, just everything. He tried to play a pass into the box. He got intercepted. And then Kuwait was just so quick on the counter attack because all of our centre backs, the tall guys, Abdullah Iqbal, Isa Suleiman, Mamoon Musa, they were in the box waiting for the ball to be delivered to them so that they can try to take ahead. So Kuwait just went on the counter and they literally outpaced everyone, and that goal was just clinical and brutal. It just basically exposed that our defending shapes was just not really that good at all. And when your defense is completely helter-skelter, other teams will punish you, especially Kuwait. The third goal just before halftime was again a defensive mistake. Mamoun Musa tried to play tried to control the tempo down and played a very innocuous back pass to Ali Niazi. I think the ball had a bit too much pace, or Ali Niazi probably didn't anticipate the ball having too much pace. He just, it went past him, and then the Kuwait forward, I forget their name. I mean, my apologies for that. They intercepted the ball. They went into the box. They took a shot. Yusuf but managed to save well, but because the defense wasn't completely back on the line to save another follow-up, I think Abdullah Iqbal should have probably done better in clearing the ball of the rebound. But the Kuwaiti striker took a touch and just lobbed off the keeper 3-0 at halftime. Yeah, you're not going to come back from that situation either. I mean, in the second half, I think we probably had, in the first half, even, Wahid had a chance to hit the ball on the target from a header, but it just went on the wrong side of the post. In the second half, we had a set piece, or at least a cross, which the substitute Walid Khan couldn't capitalize upon. We were still 3-0 down. It could have been 3-1. But I guess the fourth goal was actually well created by Kuwait, because there was a spell in, let's say, the 70, 75th minute, or I think after the 65 minutes, that they kept the ball, they kept pushing, they kept creating chance, they kept creating space. They found a player, free. He took a touch and just rifled the ball in. Pakistan just basically didn't have anything going for them against India, and they didn't even have going anything against Kuwait too. So I wasn't surprised. I was kind of expecting that if Kuwait would win 2-0, that would have been fine. Kuwait is just too damn good. But we lost 4-0, and some of the goals should have been avoided. And I think, tactically, the shape we had of our defense and midfield and even forward line and the substitutions we made, or even the starting lineups, does pose significant questions on what exactly Shahzad Anwar's plan was. And I guess moving towards the Nepal game, we're just playing for pride now. I mean, I'd be happy if we just get a draw against Nepal at this stage, just because, how I guess the morale in the squad, the morale on the bench is probably shot up because of all the attention they've gotten. The players must have unfortunately received a lot of criticism and a lot of unnecessary abuse from, seasonal football fans who probably don't give a damn about the sport beyond, the European things. But now Pakistani football is in broadcast, so they probably have a lot of things to say, informed and ill-informed. But what can I say then? It's just,
Yeah,
it's just what it is.
exactly. Coming to Nepal, who are also again playing for pride, more or less out of the tournament now. So that Kuwait was an opponent everybody knew going into this tournament that we're not going to be able to beat Kuwait. They're just too strong, right? But Nepal has played Kuwait in the past. The last time these teams played each other, they had a different coach. Nepal had Abdullah Al Mutayri, but you still ended up losing that game 7-0. And there was some discussion about maybe the right inclusions weren't there or what the coach's plan was. Abdullah Al Mutayri left. You have a new coach, Vincenzo, coming in as well. 3-1 against Kuwait. You managed to score, and they looked like you could have, had a goal more as well when you were pressing them in the right areas. What do you make of Nepal's performance in the opening two games? I think it was expected that Kuwait and India are not going to be teams that you can beat at this stage. But what were your thoughts on Nepal for the first two games?
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right on the front that no one expected India and Kuwait to be very easy for Nepal, right? But there is an added context to how Nepal are coming to this tournament because, uh, like you mentioned, like the last time that we faced the Kuwait side, 13 of the 25 players, the 23-man squad from that, uh, from that team are no longer in Nepal. Like they've left for Australia because there was no National League happening in Nepal. So this is a very trimmed down kind of squad with major players, but we don't have such squad players to compensate for that. So everyone was sort of expecting Nepal to have not a very good tournament because how Safi Sin in Nepal, like they're expected to win every tournament, although they have not won any, but everyone expect them to win. But this time around, it was exactly the different scenario. This time around, everyone knew our expectations like was very toned down. But coming into the tournament with the Kuwait game, as you mentioned, whenever we were pressing in the right areas, we kind of got the ball through their defense, or at the same time, we got maybe 3 or 4 half chances that we could have converted if we had that quality. But when you come down with a trimmed down squad, and when you have a new coach who has openly conceded in all of his press conferences that he has not had enough time with the squad, everything becomes kind of reactionary. For example, like the league finished, I think, in the 11th of June. He got the team on 12th of June without Rohit Chand, who is probably the best player in this squad in terms of quality and where he has applied his trade on. And you play Philippines on the 15th, and you directly fly to Bangalore. He's just conducted like 3 or 4 tactical sessions, so everything kind of becomes reactionary. Like first Kuwait game, it was a reaction to the Philippines friendly, which we lost 1-0, and yesterday against India, every change that he made on the squad and every tweak that he made on the tactics was a reaction to the Kuwait game. For example, we knew we conceded, I think, 2 goals against Kuwait from the right flank, so we sort of from the left bank, sorry. So we changed the left back. No, we changed the right back yesterday. We played the left back as the right back, and that's where we plan to attack, and that's what was successful until the 60th minute. But everyone knew it was gonna come down to intensity, and India have become a very good side to play in that intensity in this level of football, right? So everyone knew, like everyone was sort of expecting that to happen. Everyone knew maybe, yeah, Nepal are playing well. They're dominating the match. But at the same time, until when is this going to last? Basically, until when are we going to resist Sunil Chhetri or any other one scoring? Most probably Chhetri. And that did happen in the 62nd minute. So from the 2 performances, I think definitely looking at the first half against India or the first 60 minutes against India, everyone had their expectations sort of high coming in like after those 60 minutes. But at the same time, the game against Pakistan is not going to be any easier because, it's very reactionary. At the same time, in terms of individual quality that we have in the squad, we are using some players that are basically being used for fillers because we don't have those profiles which were basically supposed to fill in those positions. So there is a skepticism amongst the Nepali media as well, amongst the people that have spoken as well, that in terms of individual quality, Pakistan may be a little bit superior, but at the same time, we've seen that they're not a squad in perfect shape. Like they're yet to gel up, and they're yet to fix their problems, right? They're yet to figure out the pieces on their puzzle. So if the Nepal game is when they decide to gel up, it's going to be difficult for Nepal. But at the same time, yesterday, as Vincenzo said in his post-match conference, Nepal are definitely going for the win, considering like they've had their shots, they've had their chances, they have become competitive, especially against India. After the performance against India, Vincenzo said they're not going to hold back. They're not going to settle for a pragmatic result. Maybe this is their shot at least getting out of the SAFF Championship with a win after all those performances.
Okay. Interesting build up for this entire game because both teams are now just playing for pride, right? Ali, by coming back to you, we've had our problems, and it looks like Pakistan has to go back to the drawing board to try to get something out of this game. Nothing for both teams. It looks like nothing else than a convincing win will do, right? If Pakistan even gets a draw out of this, there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered. Pakistan, with this firepower that Pakistan has, we should be, at least beating Nepal, considering that in November when these last 2 teams played, a draw would have been a fair result because Pakistan had an error from goalkeeper Yusuf Butt, which made it 1-0, but it looked like it would have 0-0 would have been a fair result. Now, coming to this game, dynamics have changed. Pakistan has had about 6 international games in the last couple of months, and mostly in the last couple of weeks before this game comes. Lots of new players have come in as well. What is expected of Pakistan from this game? And do you think that Pakistan are in a position to go for the win against Nepal, or do they have no choice now?
I mean, if you look at back the Pakistan-Nepal game in November of last year, we had we had a bunch of players making their literally most of the squad was making their debuts in international for the first time in their lives, in their playing careers. But the setup was fairly simple. We played with a back four. We played with a proper back four, which was fairly simple and easy to figure out for most of our players, domestically speaking, because our entire defensive line was basically all domestic players. Some of them, and not many of them, in fact, most of them have never even played a proper league season in their talents because of the last 8 years disrupting things in the Pakistan Football Federation too since 2015. So that was a back four. I mean, I do recognize the fact that the mistake of there was a bit of an error by Yusuf Butt to allow Anjan Bista to take a shot which went in and give the Nepal the winner. But at the same time, you have to remember that Anjan Bista was supposed to be marked by Umar Hayat, who was our right back, and he failed to detect what was going on. And when that throw-in was played and Nepal launched across from down the right side, Anjan Bista had basically overtaken Umar Hayat from who was supposed to be a right back. And then, sure, Yusuf should have probably done better, should have come out, tried to at least clear the ball or block the ball or punch it clear. He just stayed on his line, which was, I guess he was trying to be a bit too much. He expected someone else to, at least cover him for him, but it was unfortunate too. This time, Shahzad Anwar insists on playing a back three regardless of what happens. So the back three issue is I mean, we do have the quality in the defensive setup. There's no mistake about that. Abdullah Iqbal, good on the ball. He can defend, he can push up a bit, he can add to the attack if he has the opportunity, if he can get past a crowd of players. Isa Suleiman, of course, the experience and the quality he brings is often good too. But at the same time, there's always questions being asked of the fullbacks because our fullbacks they're either often out of position or their defensive work often needs to be taken into account because they've not been able to get back in. Unless you're playing a very flat back five, in which your fullbacks are basically patrolling the halfway line and not allowing anything to get past them. They might assist in attack if they have the overload for them, but because they've not been really that much in terms of good in covering the spaces left behind for the back three, that's a question too. Because the back three tactics of the last 5 matches which Pakistan have played in June have, apart from Kenya, haven't really worked. Even though we have the quality for that too. And in the midfield, there are limitations of what the likes of Ali Uzair and Rahis Nabi have been able to do. They're decent defensively, but they don't really add much moving forward with the ball. So something has to change. I don't know if Shahzad Anwar has, the epiphany that maybe we can just play it safe, play a flat back four, and play like a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2 formation so that, at least don't give Nepal too much space. Because I do expect in the game against Nepal will probably try to take most of the possession. They're good on the ball, as far as South Asian standards go. I expect them to keep most of the ball. I expect Pakistan to be on the bit of a back foot. And they might try to hit something on the counter if there is a lucky break here and there. But I do feel that Pakistan should, on paper, it kind of makes sense that we should be going for the win, but we thought the same thing in the Mauritius Cup too, in the Mauritius Four Nations series, and that miserably backfired. So I think playing it safe and not trying to, because I haven't seen a plan B by Shahzad Anwar the entire month. There's no plan B. If he's insists on playing with a back three, a 3-5-2 or a 3-6-1 or a 3-4-1-2 formation, how it is, I don't think any of our players, diaspora or domestic, have had the experience playing with this kind of formation before, because he's basically using makeshift wingers or attackers as fullbacks. They have the limitation defensively too, as we realized in the Kuwait game, in which Ali Niazi and Shaq Dost, unfortunately, weren't able to provide the kind of defensive cover which our back three needed, or at least try to keep the ball in possession too. So something has to change. And if Pakistan need a result, they really need to look in and say, keep it simple. Don't need to do anything complicated. Just keep it simple. A flat, a 4-4-2 or a 4-5-1 or a 4-1-1, 4-4-1-1 would be probably fine as well. So something has to give, because if the tactics, stupidity is if you try the same result again and again, expect different, same thing again and again and again, and expect different results each time. So that has to change. Otherwise, it'll be, given the form, it'll be a miracle if you even get a draw against Nepal, because the confidence is probably absolutely shattered in the dressing room because of the way I see it.
So Sudesh, underperforming Pakistan team, not completed as a puzzle. That's something Nepal can take advantage of. And do you think Coach Vincenzo is going to look at, okay, hang on, We are going to go out of the SAFF Championship. Pakistan's going out too, but we are going to go for the win. We're going to try to make sure we go out on a high.
Yeah, definitely. But first, starting with Anjan Bisla, he was taken out yesterday against India on the 44th minute, and we're yet to hear back if he's going to start against Pakistan or not. We're going to know that tomorrow if he trains or not. But since he had to be withdrawn, there are doubts that he might not start against Pakistan. Let's see what happens because um, the foremost shift that happened against India that pushed kind of Nepal onto the back foot was basically Bistar being withdrawn, right? Because that basically Nepal were playing him as the number 10. We switched to a 4-2-3-1 formation, but taking him out and including another midfielder kind of pushed the game tilt in Nepal's half, maybe a little bit. But with that in mind, uh, coming to a question on Pakistan and if Nepal are going to take their chances, based on what the coach has said and based on my interactions with him or the interviews that I've seen of him or the post-match quotes that he made after the India game, definitely he's going for a win because first against Kuwait, he said the goal was to be competitive in this SAFF Championship and not to necessarily win because of the young squad and everything. And after India, he was completely positive and he was saying like, we're going for the kill. Like maybe we are gonna head out of the tournament with our heads held high. So this might be a chance for Nepal to actually end this campaign on a high because the last time around, the they reached the finals, even though we can argue it was like a another system, less teams, or they sort of peaked early on. Pakistan wasn't even there, Bhutan wasn't even there, and it was like an easier tournament in some sorts, as well as Nepal had like 2 or 3 months to prepare for it. But this time around, with this whole scenario, we just have one shot at win, and that's against Pakistan going into this thing. But at the same time, if I'm concerned, Nepal under Vincenzo have not been like the most consistent of sides because I think they suffered their I would use the word suffer because that's what the sentiment was all over Nepal when that happened. They suffered their first draw against Bhutan in his reign because it was like a very quick thing. And since this squad has not gelled out, like you don't exactly know who fits where and what is our tactics when you are in the driving seat when we are leading the game. Like it's a different thing to react to something and it's a different thing to sort of drive something in. So not many people know what's that. So against Pakistan, um, we might be in that position and we are yet to figure out if that works for us and not. So the intent will be for the win, no doubts. But as I mentioned earlier, if this Pakistan side decides to gel up, which I think Shahrukh mentioned in earlier podcast as well, I was watching the match with a colleague of mine here in Nepal, and it was Kenya Pakistan, which to our good luck was I think Pakistan played fairly well in that match, and we were like, oof, we're gonna struggle against this side if they play like this. Like even a draw, we will take even a draw as a result. But looking at the recent form, and they lost all the matches, but coming into this SAFF Championship with Nepal losing both of their ties, I think they're definitely going for the win. Definitely going for the win.
Sticking with the players that Nepal has, you mentioned Anjan Bista. He's he's not someone that's confirmed to start, but Nepal does have a lot of individually good players as well that can help shift the result of any game for that matter. Kiran Chamjong probably has more experience in international football than anyone in the Pakistan squad at the moment. But then you've got Rohit Chand, who's massive leader in defense as well. Bimal Gharti Magar, if I'm not wrong, is also a very good option to conjure up something against Pakistan, which he did in the 2013 SAFF Championship as well. So who else do you see as an important player for Nepal in this game?
So basically, you mentioned the core players in our squad, except for Bimal, who has been irregular after his ACL injury in 2020. I'm supposing, but basically, you mentioned the core. Ananta Tamang is someone who complements Rohit Chand very well in defense. So those two have been the centre back pairings for 2 years. Ananta Tamang is a vital player for Nepal because uh, with this latest kind of approach, they like to sort of build up from the back at least, or at least the defenders are taking a lot of touches to get those balls to the number six, then to distribute. So that sort of is very vital. And another player that has emerged lately is Eric Bista, who started as a number six against India, who is good with the ball, but not a type of midfielder that Nepal would ideally have if you want to break plays as well as not concede on counters. So, rather, I would say, like, rather than focusing on the players to watch, let's focus on what Nepal lack at this point, and it's been very apparent throughout. Like Ali mentioned about fullbacks. Nepal also has a very tricky fullback situation because of the void that's been left by players that have departed to Australia. Basically, we played the first game with different sets of fullback, and to that reaction, we played a centre back as our left back, and we played the left back as our right back against India, and that was the side where all of India's attacks were coming on from. So I mentioned in the first place, if they decide to gel up, that's the flank that Otis Khan is going to run from, right? So maybe we can see a vital player being put on that flank if Vincenzo decides to react again. Maybe we can see a centre back being put on the right flank just because they need an additional protection. So I think it's the core is the same. You know about Rohit Chand, who's had a terrific season with Persik in Indonesia, although not at all good season for his side who were fighting for relegation, but he was instrumental in their relegation fight. But at the same time, you see other batch players who have been fillers, but I would rather say there might be a crucial deciding factor that is going to be who's going to start on the right.
Makes sense. And Mali, just trying to wrap up things in our conversation, coming towards the conclusion of this. Pakistan have a lot of things to figure out for this. But who do you see stepping up for Pakistan, or who do you think are going to be the players that need to perform for Pakistan? I think after so many experiments, so many games, I think this is at a point where I think when you play against Nepal, and I think Sudesh would agree, is that at least it's a fair match. With Kuwait and India, we were expecting that it's always going to be win, but Pakistan should and needs to get a result against Nepal. Who do you think needs to just pull off its socks and be like, we have to do this now. We have to score goals. We have to figure this out now.
I think if we are supposed to go for the win and try to score goals, Otis Khan will probably be the key player. I mean, the poor guy has played his socks off playing almost 90 minutes of football ever since he made his debut 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago. He's played the full 90 minutes in all three matches beyond maybe, let's say, the last couple of minutes against, against Djibouti and the last couple of minutes against Kuwait. But playing 5 matches in less than 2 weeks in international football, almost playing the full 90 minutes. I can imagine he's pretty much exhausted right now. But you have to admire his courage and his resilience that he just keeps going at it and at it and at it no matter what happens. Some of our best chances I would say, or at least some of the chances that we could have probably utilized on, came through because of Otis finding space on that left side. He will have to be the person that really has to push up and make sure that the squad is over there. He should be able to. He should have more of a free role against Nepal, because in the previous matches he was mostly confined to the left side because of a rigid formation. Because someone like Otis should be able to play in the center. He should play on the right. Switch positions. Just to confuse your markers a bit and try to open up spaces on the other side too. So I would say that if Otis Khan can have a relatively more free role in the front two or a front three, or he can go beyond the left and right side, I think he will probably hold the key. At the same time, it depends that who is actually starting on our fullbacks, because our fullbacks, Sufyan is a decent fullback defensively. I think he probably could have done a much better job against India because of the way he conceded that penalty, that second penalty in the second half. Because of his inexperience, basically, because that was literally his third game, and you are basically trying to foul a person, or at least stop the ball from a guy who's played like almost 140 matches. Sunil Chetri knew exactly what he was doing. Sufyan didn't know what he was doing. So that inexperience, that gulf in experience and class often matters too. So we have to keep it safe, but we also need to ensure that our flair players, Otis and Haroon, are able to at least keep asking questions whenever they get the ball. I do feel that Harun Hamid needs to be a bit more selfless instead of being selfish, because he sometimes keeps holds the ball a bit too much, because it happens when you don't have that kind of trust with your fellow midfielders or your fullbacks or the people around you, because sometimes you might pass them and they might lose the ball and said, I have to do everything again right now, and full of energy, full of skill, but he's like your I don't want him to be your 18-year-old fast bowler who just keep playing and playing, and the guy suddenly has a shin injury and he's out for like 2 years and then is not no longer back to the same form. If I use a cricket terminology, but Otis Khan, if he has a free role and he can find that little bit of extra oomph from the players around him, he'll probably be the key that actually makes Pakistan create chances and score chances and to win for Pakistan. If Otis does not play well because of fatigue, because of other factors, unless Nepali defenders have an absolute gem of a performance in those 90 minutes against him, they close him down, they mark him up as much as they can, they don't allow the ball to come into him, then Pakistan is in a bit of a spot of bother. Unless we decide to do these set piece tactics and use our height to at least find some kind of opening to head the ball in. That's how Kuwait scored the first goal against Nepal. It was a set piece, and then from then it became like a one-way traffic afterwards.
Agreed. So there's your final thoughts on Pakistan versus Nepal. Any thoughts you'd have on the Pakistan team? And your final prediction. What do you see actually happening in this game where everybody's really just playing for pride now?
Predictions are always difficult for me. I don't regularly touch on that avenue, but I'll give my predictions after I have my final thoughts. But um, Nepal, Pakistan, like everyone in Nepal sort of remembers that 2013 game when Trimalga kind of announced himself to the world, and that's how the Nepali kind of population associates with Pakistan in terms of football, as well as maybe because of the recent friendly as well. But uh, all in all, this sort of feels like uh, a kind of situation where we were in 2015, maybe, because that was the time when Nepali football got plagued by controversies as well as a generation of players departing and a team being in a very in a transition of some sorts. But this time around, where we are in transition, and everyone sort of expected us not to win a single game in the SAFF Championship. Albeit against India, it's a different case that no matter what happens, we have to win against India. That's the spirit that everyone carries. But with Pakistan, I think this fixture kind of carries a lot in terms of where this Nepali team heads forward, because in his post-match conference yesterday, when he was asked if he has been talking to certain ISL clubs, Coach Vincenzo has openly said yes, he is in talks with certain ISL clubs, but that might be very impulsive. So this win against Pakistan, if Nepal managed to win, might decide the fate if Vincenzo decides to stay in Nepal or not. And if they decide to go with the same head coach for the World Cup qualifiers, the first round of the World Cup qualifiers, then it's very vital for Nepal to win, like make it through from the first round, because after that we won't have rather a lot of friendlies, or with the board that we have, we won't be able to arrange a lot of friendlies if we don't manage to win the first one. So he's also said like he's prioritizing those sort of avenues. But this Pakistan win, this very match, in very specific Nepali context, if they manage to win, might be just more than a win for this very, very young squad, which is like getting exposure. I think 6 of the 11 that started against India were under 21. So it speaks for itself. So they will get more exposure if this match results in a win. Like they're probable to get more exposure if they win this match. But with predictions, I think from Nepal, from the performance that especially we delivered against India, although we got killed after 60 minutes, I think it is going to be like a 1-0 or a 2-0 win for Nepal, because it's very difficult for a team like Pakistan who were playing like international football after so long, and with this tournament as well. I would say this hasn't been the fairest of tournaments for Pakistan, based on how they arrived in India, as well as based on how they're sort of playing this tournament after that long hiatus, as well as under the circumstances that they had to play the first game. I think it's very difficult for them to sort of miraculously fix all of those things together, unless a striker or anyone decides to sort of jump in and deliver a very classic talismanic performance. So I think it's going to be a 1-0 or 2-0 for Nepal.
Ali, your final thoughts? Pakistan and Nepal are in the same boat. Both teams are eyeing World Cup qualifiers, which is again more than just a game for both. It unlocks the next couple of years. Could potentially be that we see these two teams. That's one draw that Pakistan hoping, is that these two teams face each other in the World Cup qualifiers. But your final thoughts and your prediction, if you'd like. I think we have gotten to this point now in our preview series where you can predict what's going to happen.
Even if Pakistan wins this match, hypothetically speaking, a lot of questions need to be asked on moving forward, especially with the World Cup qualifiers in October and the only FIFA window before that in September. Does the PFF normalization committee, because they now have an extension until March to finalize the PFF elections, hopefully, do they want to continue with Shahzad Anwar? Do they want to continue with this kind of sort of ad hoc setup right now, even if we win? Because a lot of things have to be addressed in between over the next 2 months before Pakistan can probably launch and it also depends who we actually get in the draw on the 27th of July, when the draws are actually announced by the AFC for the first round. I certainly do feel that Nepal will probably have more of the ball, and they probably will have more of the chances. I wouldn't be surprised if Nepal actually wins, but I also probably wouldn't be surprised if Pakistan nick a point, maybe a 1-1. Maybe a 1-1. At this stage, I'd accept a draw, just to end our continuous losing streak of, like, I don't know, 10 matches. 10 matches, or is it 11? I forget, because the last time we won was against Bhutan in the 2018 SAFF Cup, which we won 3-0.
Yeah.
Ever since then, we've lost every single match we played. Not even a draw. We've basically lost every single match we played after that. So I would be happy if we get a draw. But if we nick a win, I would expect it to be an Otis Khan special. Again, it depends if he has that in him for another 90 minutes of non-stop football, and will he be able to give that moment of magic. But I wouldn't be surprised if Nepal win it too, because the way things are, especially if Shahzad sticks with the same back three, I probably expect Nepal to fancy their chances, and they might even nick the win for that one.
And there you have it. Both our analysts are looking towards a Nepal win at this moment, which is very likely given how Pakistan is performing. Lots of questions for the Pakistan team, and a moment for the Nepal team to end the tournament on a high. Pakistan are really playing for pride, like Nepal. Game could go either way. It is a game of football. In 90 minutes, anything can happen. But this is what our analyst thinks, and let's see what happens on Tuesday. Thank you so much, Sudesh and Ali Ahsan, for joining us today and having this conversation. Both teams will be exiting the tournament after that match, but it's going to be an interesting journey for Nepal and Pakistan as they go on to prepare for the World Cup qualifiers in October. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to another episode. Please do like, share, subscribe, and we'll be back with the next one.